Hello, everybody.
We have our sweatshirt brigade on the top row.
Mhm.
Yes, that's us. We're an official brigade. I'm not sure what that means. What is a brigade exactly? Is that just like a group of people?
Yeah,
Close enough. Sweatshirt gang.
It's a sweatshirt gang.
sweatshirt gang. Yeah,
That's
I don't
right.
have, I don't have sweatshirts.
You don't have a sweatshirt?
You need one. They're cozy.
They're super cozy. Very
Hello, Sue Bowles.
Hi, Miss Sue.
Hi. Say hi to
Let's,
Danger too.
let's get this started. What do we always say before our topic?
We remind folks to please participate in the
Yes.
to please join in the conversation. We want to hear from you.
Share.
Yes.
Lisa, you need a hoodie. She says you.
I don't know what color I would get.
So, what is our topic today? What's the title? I don't even know what the title is, Jerome.
How to make clients cry.
How to make
Yeah, that almost made the cut today, but instead we're gonna go with connect with clients instantly.
connect with clients instantly. Um,
Be Oprah.
isn't I'm gonna be dumb for a second. Aren't you connecting with a client as soon as you sit down and talk to them? Isn't that good enough for connection?
I'll say the tools we're talking about today, I think, because there's some things that I imagine if you're a coach, you'd be like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But you can. They extend before a client even sits in your chair. Like, I
So-
think we can apply it to even
Shall
your
we
market.
talk about connecting in general before we move on over to connecting with a client? Just because, like what you mentioned, Brooke, some of the things I was going over, I imagine maybe you couldn't necessarily do it in this manner, but you definitely could extend this type of connection, or at least some of these tips to connect better to your client. So, what do you guys think?
Well,
It's a good way to connect, just in general. What are some tips?
I think a big part of this too. So, what's one of the things we left off in the title is nixing small talk. So, like when we say connect, that's sort of a very broad, out here term. I think what we're really talking about is how to get to that, like, my client's willing to open up and be vulnerable with me and trust me, and we don't have to do this warming up thing where there's this tepid small talk kind of. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable, and how to just like get into that deep work right away as quick as humanly possible with your client, and just sort of jump the the lighthearted sort of minutia small talk kind of conversations. Does that make sense?
We're talking about connecting instantly, right? Just as the title suggests.
So, who do you have to be as a coach to be able to connect instantly? What makeup do you think we might need as coaches to be able to open up that instant connection that y'all are speaking about?
See, this is one that I feel comes a little bit easier to just in general when it comes to connecting. You've got to be vulnerable. I think is a huge component to connecting.
Speak
Doing
more
so
about vulnerability. Before you go on, speak more about vulnerability. What is vulnerability? Because, well, I'll stop.
Yeah, so being open to whatever it is that your client has got to say, or in general, whoever it is you're speaking to whatever they've got to say without really being judgmental. Also showing some humility on your part, letting them know that you're not perfect. This is a human on human interaction here, and you're not going to get a perfect being because unfortunately those don't exist. So letting that be known. From the jump start is, I think, very important and critical to instantly connecting.
I see Brooke. Go ahead.
I think that the vulnerability comes from that's going to come from me, at least in the marketing, before the client ever gets through the door, in you getting out there and sharing your story, your struggles, your whatever it is, and saying, hey, I've not always been perfect, I've got this, opening up and being willing to be flawed, in order to connect with other people, in order to connect with your client, and to do that in your marketing, to do that in your when you're out there talking, doing talks. Maybe if you're doing, group coaching and you're having some kind of talk beforehand, or when you open up and let's say you're doing a group in a group coaching environment and you share about yourself, right? And then you open it up to this, okay, let the floor, everybody else sort of can start with, let's coach, get into coaching now. The fact that you are out there and being willing to open up and show your heart and your emotion and be vulnerable is inviting everybody else in your group coaching session to do the same. So I think it can really be a powerful tool.
I've had this. Hello, Danger.
Danger agree.
Connection. I've had this topic get kind of brought up in similar ways in Lunch and Learns, where we're talking about the bio. People will ask, well, what should I put in my bio? What should I write in my bio? The bio is your connection to whoever is going to be reading or your potential clients. They're going to want to connect with you when they're reading your bio. And a lot of times people think that's their grandstand to just talk about themselves and, go on and on. But it's really about the person reading it is why we write the bio. We write the bio so that whoever's reading it can connect with us. So that means you strategically leave some things out that probably wouldn't connect, and you put things in that will speak to your ideal client. I know your cat's insane. So what is the... I want to maybe step out of coaching real quick and just imagine you're talking with a stranger. You meet a stranger for the first time and you instantly connect. Have you guys ever had one of those moments where it's like instant connection, maybe intended, maybe unintended, but the connection was made nonetheless?
I think a very common space where that occurs would be, for me at least, is at concerts. Everybody's there for the same reason. For the most part, I would like to think we want to hear some good music and have a good time. So inadvertently connecting comes pretty easy there. I think there's a lot of similarities when it comes to having a conversation that you might be having off to the side to maybe another group or another person somewhere is just not so far from you, but just a little distance where they can hear you. It's really easy. Oh, you're going to see this person? Well, that's exactly where I'm going to go next. And you talk about maybe their most recent song or something like that, one of your favorite songs of theirs. That's a really, I think, common space for unintended connection to happen instantly and quickly.
As you're sharing, what's interesting is something's coming up for me too. There's an occurrence. It's called trauma bonding. And it's where two people can create a very quick connection during a traumatic event, after a traumatic event, because of a traumatic event, and because they shared that event, or they share the same story or commonality, or there's this certain trauma in their past that they instantly connect with people who have been through the same thing. But if you take that, what do we learn from that process? The fact that people very quickly and easily trauma bond.
That will be the topic of my clickbait blog. Should coaches trauma bond with their clients?
But what do we take from that? That when we're in a really emotional, vulnerable, scary kind of place, we are much more open to connection and bonding. Not that say that we need to be trauma bonding with our clients, but in many ways, a lot of coaches who have been through traumas and things like that, though, or have been through their own turmoil, share that in their story, share that in there, and they share about where they are now, and they're able to connect with people as a result of sharing that experience, and then people trust them because they're, oh, she gets me, he gets me, he's been through the same thing. So that would just pop into my head, that thought.
Yeah, to that same point, I believe that's a situation where we, I think usually put up sometimes these walls to prevent ourselves from being hurt. In an instance of trauma where both can kind of connect, I think it reminds us we're all human, and we can all, at the end of the day, deal with the exact same things that we sometimes believe there's all these different things that make us different, but at the core, when it comes to, especially in an instance like trauma, where it's sometimes fight or flight, we're dealing with the exact same thing. And again, it's just a reminder that we're all very similar, much more similar than we are disalike.
There's a biological reason too, at least one reason. There's probably more than just what I'm going to bring up, that we do that sort of trauma bonding thing. And it's that when we're in a fear state or stress state, we crave oxytocin release, even serotonin release, all of these things. And that comes when you're connecting with another human being. You are given a dose of serotonin, oxytocin, things like that comes into your bloodstream. And so it's sort of like this symbiosis thing that happens, like trauma, but I'm with somebody else and they make it better. And how there's actually a biological reason that you feel better when there are other people around. It actually serves as a function for us to go out there and get help when we're in trauma states and be encouraged to interact with other people so that we don't isolate, which if you take that to the next level, call it an evolutionary construct. But yeah.
So I'm a bit fuzzy still on the idea of a connection.
What is a connection?
It seems like it's kind of, like we connected. We made a connection, connected clients. Kind of out here in the ether. And I'm the kind of person who wants to drill it down and be like, okay, how do you know when a connection is made? And what is a connection versus like, I don't know, something surface level?
Well, I mean, I think surface level. How about this? Instead of asking that, what are surface level questions or conversations? So like, how's the weather? Where are you from? Any other examples?
How's your day?
What do you do? What do you do for a living?
What do you do for a living? Yeah.
Current events.
So how about in a client coaching sort of environment? It's first session, let's say. What we come in and our client, what do we got some small talk, right? Going on. What brings you in today? What are you gonna what other questions could happen that might be more surface?
I think really to initiate the conversation, I hear this a lot in coaching sessions, is how are you doing today? And usually that exchange takes place. With coaching, I feel like there's you want to try and make as minimal of a space for small talk as possible, but there is still importance to small talk.
I think can we try a little game, little activity? Will somebody be a client? Jen will be our client. Okay. And then will somebody be our coach?
I can do it.
Okay. Although I think let's have Jerome or Anthony, just because the nature of
Jerome.
Because good call.
Good call.
Alrighty, start off the session.
What I'm gonna do, just to warn you, I'm gonna pause you after each question. Okay. Go for it.
Hi Jen, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for asking. Just want to
pause. Now, I was going to let that first one fly. The how you doing today fly. I was going to let that.
I'm not letting that one fly.
Okay, go ahead.
Culturally, that can be like Americans. How you doing today? We kind of understand that's like we don't expect a real answer. It's more of like a way to say, like, it's a greeting. People from Europe view that question very weirdly, where they will be like, "Okay, I'll tell you how I am," and then they'll go on with their whole life story.
Well, that'd be a bad thing.
People will view that question very differently depending where you're from. We all share the same assumption of what.
So instant connection, not quite the point I'm trying to make yet, but but a good point nonetheless, because that could be a way to go deeper with somebody who in a different cultural background. Just ask them how to do it.
Jen could have answered bad, and then that would have led to a different series of questions. But
just to pipe in here, I seriously stop and think: am I going to really answer that question, or am I in a hurry and just going to go? I'm fine, good. So I take time to actually think: on how I want to answer that question. So,
I always answer honestly, but
yeah,
it's never like dramatically.
yeah.
Um,
All
all right, next.
continue,
So
Jerome.
go ahead. Next question.
So this is our first session that we've had, Jen. I'm just curious as to what brings you in today. What do we want to talk about?
Well, I just got back from accomplishing a major goal and I'm ready to set a new goal.
All right. Well, before we speak about maybe setting that new goal, can you tell me about that last goal a little bit, just so we have some context on anything we do moving forward?
Yes. So I set a goal of hiking to the top of a mountain to see a glacier, and I prepared myself for it physically, and I made it, and I had no issues until the end.
Congratulations. Sorry, forgot this is a code.
Okay, so with this next goal of yours, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
That's the thing. I can't. I don't know what it's going to be yet.
So pause. He said, tell me a little more about the next goal, right? How can we adjust that question to get deeper immediately?
Maybe I would stay in the past a little bit longer. What did that goal mean to you accomplishing it?
Do you want me to answer that?
Ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah, ditto what Anthony
Go
said.
ahead, answer that.
It meant that I'm capable of a lot more physically than I realized. So I can set bigger goals physically, which is super exciting.
How did that make you feel?
Excited, proud. Excited and proud.
I'm going to steal a question from Sue Bowles. What did you learn about yourself by accomplishing the goal of climbing the mountain?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I learned that I really don't know my limits. I have no idea what they are because I didn't even come close to it. I thought that was going to be it. I thought I was going to be pushing my limits by doing that, but that was nowhere near it. So I just have a lot more. I learned that I have a lot more that I'm capable of that I haven't had awareness of. And now I have awareness of it.
Pause.
Well,
So I'm just paused because I want to bring us to now the question the next part of the question that Jerome had asked. I think there's an awesome past exploration. The next question he asked was also, actually, before we go there, for you, Jen, like on a meta level, you're not in the coaching session anymore. This is us asking, how was that exploration about the goal you just accomplished? Was that was that a deeper exploration? Was that something that you worked for you to connect to as a client?
Yes, specifically that question that Sue had was the right question. Like that really, I felt connected after that question. I felt like that went deep.
That's it. Kick Sue out. She's making
So
a
the next question Jerome asks is, well, what goal do you want to work on next? Or what do you want to do? Tell me more about the next goal you want to work on, I think. How can we make that specific question deeper?
I think it's a fine question. I think my answer forces it to go deeper.
Okay.
I don't have an answer. So Jerome is going to have to now,
Well, so then I had one thought with that. Could you have asked, what would making a new goal mean to you? Or why do you want to make a new goal?
Yeah. What makes having a new goal important to you? Yeah. Yeah, because that forces me to pause and go, wait, hold on. Why does that matter? Because that's very important.
Okay, so share.
Because I think having a physical goal is a really fun way to keep working towards something physically, which I like to do for my health and well-being, but it gives it another element of fun, where I'm not just, working out or taking care of myself just for health. Like I want to actually do something with that health.
So this is a really neat thing, at least for me it is, because this is something that I can be very mechanical, but when I thought, well, what if we ask this question? Not only have we learned that Jen's next goal, she wants it to be physical. Like we didn't know that before. And we understand the motivating factor behind making the goal. So we're getting that why, that emotional connection. We're already deepening the importance of this goal just by adjusting that question a little bit, right? I think it's very cool, actually. It was an experiment and it's working. At least for me, it is. So okay, you're with that answer. What's the next question, Jerome?
I want to go back a little bit because you did mention that you were nowhere near reaching your limits when it came to achieving your last goal.
Mhm.
Can you maybe share with me a little bit what that might look like to you, reaching your limit when it comes to setting a goal and achieving that goal, or maybe not achieving that goal?
Pause really quick just to point out a couple things. Notice that Jerome mirrored Jen's words and mirrored them exactly as she said them. That's another important thing he's doing to assist in connecting quickly with Jen. So I just wanted to point that out. Jen, question.
So I'm trying to think of the question. I think I heard you ask, you wanted to know more about what pushing myself to my limits looked like. You wanted me to elaborate on that, it sounded like.
Correct, because you mentioned earlier that you were nowhere near reaching your limits, and
Yeah.
I'm curious about getting closer to potentially reaching your limits when it comes to setting a goal.
So I guess to me, the physical limit is going to be some sort of event where there's a lot of suffering involved. It's funny saying that out loud. Like, why do I want that? But that's just part of knowing that I'm at a limitation. And I didn't really experience that much suffering on this past goal because I was in good enough shape to do it. I mean, there was suffering at the end, but there was no suffering like getting to the top of the mountain at all. None. So it was almost easy, which I did not expect. And I'd like to find something that is harder because I want to see what I'm capable of. And I've done before where I trained and ran a half marathon and I had tendinitis and I still did it. And it was like I had 6 miles of no suffering and then the rest was all suffering. And so I think back to that, like I know that I can endure a lot physically from that experience. And I think I was kind of basing this hiking experience off of that, and it just didn't even come close. And so I think I undersold my own abilities. I think I thought I was in less good shape than I actually am.
So, from what I hear you when you mention,
Can we pause for a quick second? Because I'm wondering, within the bounds of coaching, you noticed, I noticed Jen's emotion change in that moment, and I noticed her laugh, and I noticed. Would it be okay to acknowledge that, or just sort of go, because she was like, I'm in much better shape than I thought I was, and like she's very happy about it. I guess maybe then the way to handle that properly, because I would like to celebrate with her a little bit in this moment somehow. And I'm wondering, so do we ask, is it just that we ask about that laugh? Is it just that we ask about that emotion switch or that feeling that she was feeling?
What do you want to say? Just go with what you want to say, because your instincts are usually on the money. What is it that you would say in that moment, Brooke?
I see you laughing, Jen, when you say that you are much stronger than you thought you were. How does that make you feel?
It makes me wonder what else in my life I am underselling. Like, what else am I thinking that I'm not that great in that I actually could be great in? It's just got me questioning my whole judgment of my whole assessment of my abilities.
How does that make you feel?
Curious, very curious and open to exploring that.
I have my next question, but
I might have something here too.
So,
Yeah.
let me just interrupt a second. So your idea of when you saw Jen laughing, Brooke, you saw her laughing, and I'm going to have dogs barking, I think. You saw her laughing and you wanted to celebrate that moment. And what she did was reflect deeper into,
which was better in my opinion. Honestly, like her asking that and her reflecting deeper, for me it was a gift I didn't expect, because that was her opening up. We're already getting, the layers are peeling back, and so that was really powerful to me. And so then and also it revealed more information about this potential goal and an opportunity to sort of connect that feeling of, well, I can do way more than I thought I could. And we're in a situation where she wants to set a goal. And so now I have this nugget of awesomeness that allows me to remind her when she's that, hey, I can not only, what do we know? It's a physical goal she wants to do. We know that she can do more than she ever thought she could. And she's open and she's curious. And so there's a lot of space for creativity, I guess, for her in her goal setting in this moment. And that made me excited. So, yeah.
So one of the things that you didn't do was be attached to what your question was. You connected with your client because your client decided to do something different. You allowed that space for it to organically shift to where that client wanted to go and where that client needed to go. You weren't holding on to, no, I want you to tell me and, hip, hip, hooray about where you are in that moment. And that's an important piece that sometimes coaches forget. Sometimes our questions are important, as I call nailing it to the wall. It's important to go there. There's other times you just got to let it go, because where Jen went with it, that connection was already flowing with this inquiry, response, and interaction. That connection allowed her to dive deeper into, her meaning Jen, to dive deeper into what she was feeling in that moment. That's all, that connection. Still about connection.
Anthony, you look skeptical.
I am, and I've got a question, I guess, now. Jerome and Brooke, since you guys did the questioning, do you guys feel connection with Jen? We started with those kind of surface level stuff, and then we dove deeper into her goals and her what she wants for the future. Do you feel that connection?
I feel like it's harder to make the connection because we're interrupting it. So like there's not, like, we're not in like a flow state, right? So because we're stopping that flow state, and for that connection to really happen, we have to remain in sort of that flow state with one another. But I do feel like the direction that we're going is we're getting deeper faster than if we had just started with, what do you want to work on today? Or what goal do you want to set? I feel like we've already gotten to this sort of deeper emotional level when we might still otherwise be in this sort of surface place just by asking a question like that.
So we're getting to the deeper level. How will you know when a connection is made?
Well, I don't that's like,
I can say for me, I now feel connected to Jen through the pursuit of figuring out what this goal is. I'm now legitimately connected to what it is that she wants to find out.
Now, here's my follow-up question then. Jen, do you feel connected to Jerome and Brooke?
I do, but I feel more connected to myself.
That's
which
what
I think is more powerful and meaningful for me.
So there is sort of more of a clarification of what we're looking for with the connection then, because I imagine that at first I imagined a connection was not just a one-way street for the coach to just dive in deeper with the client. In my mind, it seems like the client would also need to feel connected with the coach in a way that this ICF defines as a partnership between coach and client. A partnership sort of implies that there's a connection there that's somewhat reciprocal. You added something else, though, Jen, about feeling connected with yourself that I didn't take into account at first, though, which is interesting, which I kind of want to know, what is feeling disconnected like versus feeling connected?
Well, I just think that, I mean, this is the first time I'm talking about this out loud, and I just felt like both Brooke and Jerome were holding a safe space for me to explore, and I could see that they were both interested, listening. They had almost like an encouraging energy of like, yeah, keep going, you know, like I felt supported in my own exploration of my thoughts and getting this out loud. So that allowed me, once I was able to hear myself out loud and say, oh, wow, I can't believe I just said that. That made me feel more connected to myself. But that was through they facilitated that through the space they were holding and the energy that they were presenting. I didn't answer your question.
I think it's really important what you just brought up, because we can get wrapped up in the questions and tweaking these questions, but there's a lot more to making a connection, and that's sort of what we're talking about today, is all of these little things that happen. And I want to ask Jen another question that's sort of unrelated to her goal, and that question is can you say, and maybe it's not something that is sayable or figure outable, what was assisting in creating that safe space for you? What worked in that safe space? Like, what was being done so that if we wanted to communicate this to a coach that didn't know, well, from a client's perspective, what's being done to facilitate that openness?
Both of you look fully engaged, so full active listening. Like I can sense it. You know, your body language for both of you clearly indicates, you know, the slight nodding sometimes of your head, the you know, times when you blink your eyes. I just see it. I see it on your body.
I mean, that's important. That's huge. And so in the videos and things we were watching prior to this, to sort of research for it, that comes up. A big part of that, this creating this instant connection with people, is that exactly those things that you just brought up. So thank you for that.
You're both a little like lean forward. Everything you're doing is sending me the signal that you're actively listening and you're fully engaged and you're open to what I have to say. And I feel an immediate level of trust from your body language.
Anthony? I see wheels turning in Anthony's head.
Yeah, there's some wheels turning. I don't know if I'm entirely. I mean, this was probably something we need to see over a longer period of time in a coaching relationship, rather than the first 5 minutes, 5 questions of a coaching conversation.
Yeah, but the point of this is we want you to be able to get into the meat in the first 5. Like, that's what we want to, boom, bam, let's get in there. Not saying that that's necessary every time, but if we're going to try to do that, if we're going to try to sort of just try this approach. Let's give it a whirl, right? And see
Mhm.
how deep we can get and how quickly, right?
Mhm.
But that was really what the thought was when this topic was proposed.
Anthony, what are you skeptical about, if anything?
More so it's coming back to the partnership aspect to me of coaching and the connection from there, because when I tend to think of connections, I think of like either work connections or like school connections that I've made where you're in the same environment, you kind of have the same goal, and you're put together, and the connections just sort of happen naturally. No one person is really forcing it or intending it to happen, but it happens nonetheless because you're in those environments. So I'm trying to think of how the first session you have with the client, it's immediately that this is a partnership, not necessarily I'm the coach, I'm just facilitating a process that is kind of independent of me as a coach and entirely focused on the client. Now, I might be trying to be too focused rather than client focused,
I think
but it
so.
feels like there's something missing, but I can't put my finger on it right now.
This might be the thing. So maybe what you're missing is what the purpose of the connection is, and when we say connecting, what we mean by that, and what sort of the overarching purpose it serves for both coach and client. So when we say there's different elements of connecting, right? So you have the client coach connection between one another, right? We could be discussing about that connection. We could also be discussing about the client with their connection with their goals and themselves. I really feel like those are the two critical ones. So what's interesting is when you look at it, the connection between client and coach, what is the purpose of that?
Trust.
That is, I think it's to get your client to open up and be willing to go deeper.
So the connection between your client and their selves and their goals, what is the importance of that?
It's so that they verbalize what they're actually wanting and thinking, and then start to go about the process of thinking about how to get to what they want.
And become more invested in what
Without
they're doing.
more invested and without, I guess, blocks or like the voices telling them that they can't do it, or, you know, those kinds of things.
How does the first connection, that connection between client and coach, serve the second connection? The connection between
Generates trust and feeling like the client is in a safe environment to freely speak their thoughts.
So what is, given the option between a connection that we can make happen very quickly, right, and we can get to that secondary part, I guess are you seeing the value in why solidifying this coach client connection quickly might be something that's beneficial for a coach?
I do. I think my issue, now that I'm thinking about it, is that in my experience, it is not as dependent on the coach that you might think, where it varies very wildly from client to client how open they are and willing they are to like make that connection. I've had some clients where it's like we hit the ground running, boom, we're in it. Other clients throughout the whole coaching relationship, it feels like that connection was never made. It felt like we're talking about goals and, you know, the surface level stuff on how to achieve a goal, but every time I try to go deeper, it just like it goes right back to the surface.
And there's a two-part thing for that, like what the tools we're giving is the hope that some of these tools may assist in getting that client to go deeper, but the other part of that is the client may not be ready to go deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it can be an opportunity, though, Anthony, if you're noticing that pattern where they say they want to, but they're not really doing it. That's something you bring. That's the challenge. You bring that to the coaching session. I noticed, I don't know how you would say it because it's going to be different with everybody you talk to. I noticed, you mentioned you want to do X, Y, and Z. And when you come back, X, Y, and Z isn't done, or in this moment, it doesn't feel like X, Y, and Z is a deep play, whatever, but bringing it to the forefront of what your recognition is definitely a place for coaching with that, because it gives them an opportunity to go, yeah, you're right. I don't want to go deeper. I don't want to tap into this. I'm afraid. And that's when you can tap into other avenues of that discussion. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
One of the tools given in the was that a well-placed assumption, right? Where you go, so I just want to share something I'm observing. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong or crazy or what have you, but I just like to share something I'm observing. And so I'm observing that we're always sort of staying on the surface level, and it just feels like you don't want to go deeper. Am I wrong, or not even? Can you tell me more about that? Just tell me more about that statement, and then they'll give you an honest answer about whether or not that hits or doesn't, and that could open it up, the doors to go deeper, perhaps.
But a different avenue towards that direction, because they might not be able to face it head on, which is what you're saying, Anthony, I think. So they might not be able to hit it head on, but there's other doors that will allow them to get there in their graceful way.
I'm wondering if there's a way then to preemptively only get the clients who are willing to connect more openly. Like you just send out a brief survey on a scale of 1 to 10. How open are you to connecting with me as your coach?
Let's talk about, so like, let's take a moment and talk about Oprah, right? Like Oprah has a superpower. She can get everybody. She's gotten like the seemingly toughest people on the planet to open up, to cry, she's got a superpower of getting people to just be emotional and be like vulnerable. Even of the toughest nuts in that case. So I'm bringing this up because we're talking about the roundabout, but I really sort of want to explore this sort of, is it possible to get to those deeper places quickly? Is it possible to get in there, even for the ones that are a little reserved, or a little, what tools what things can we do to maybe sort of hedge our bets when it comes to our clients opening up?
So here's an interesting thing I saw with that Oprah video you're talking about. I'm wondering if coaches do this, or coach can do this, where sometimes when Oprah does interviews, she will go to the people's homes. So I'm wondering if maybe that's like a little cheat, like, okay, I'm a coach who does outpatient calls or whatever. I go to your house, we sit down in your space, and we coach there.
We're in somebody's, I'm honestly, something that I think I've observed in our classes, a lot of times our client or our students are willing to open up a little more, be more vulnerable, be more comfortable. They're not putting on their suits and they're like their Sunday best. They're showing up to class and being real, because they're in their own home, like they're in a safe space. Like they don't have to find it. Where they're at is safe. And they know that, and it creates this sort of, which is a gift of Zoom. Honestly, it's a gift of virtual that is often overlooked. We lose, of course, there's a balance. Everything's balanced. We lose some things by virtue of being virtual, but there are also gifts there as well.
Anthony, to answer your question, from my perspective, you cannot force anyone to go deeper than they are open to going. And if you try to force it, it typically causes the client to lose trust in you because you're trying to force it. The question I like, if I am trying to go deeper and I don't want to force it, but I still want to encourage it, is what else can you say about that? What else can you tell me about that? What else can you share about that? Like, just kind of gently offering them the ability to talk more about something. But if they don't want to, I think that there's nothing you can do.
I think though that I because my experience when I'm doing exercises with our students on level 2 and I'm going in there with them and I'm getting them, we will get ones that are just head. And there's lots of ways tools I've used to get them out of that head, like get them out of that headspace and start feeling like just, and mind you, they're along for the ride in some ways. That's where we would do exercises where close your eyes, take deep breaths. I want you to feel the energy come from up here and down to here, and you feel it in your heart. Put your hand on your heart, and starting to get them to connect with that mind-body connection, get out of the head and into a really feeling space. And using tools like that work. One of the tools I've used too is so if that client or if is right in front of you, what would you say? A powerful tool if that, and they're hurting, like if that client is, if you, and this is of course for marketing. So if what are they saying to themselves at the end of the night in their own words, make it an I statement. I am this, I feel this, and making it sort of getting them to close their eyes and really get into that space where they're not, it's not about how all this thought anymore. It's about what they're just feeling. And it can be work sometimes. It could be, Anthony's seen it. Sometimes like they keep going back up and going back up and going back up. And, but if they're willing, of course, and I do have success getting them to a place where they go, oh, and then usually once they get there, they're like, oh, I got this now. Like, I get it. I know what to do. Because they've now connected emotionally with their marketing message or their whatever it is they're doing. So,
which it is a bit similar to, like, you can't have somebody open up who doesn't want to open up. You also can't coach somebody who doesn't want to be coached. Like, we have to assume that the person coming to us wants the coaching done and wants to go through that process. So to a certain degree, there's got to be a little bit of openness, unless they've got a different idea of what coaching actually is.
Sometimes for me, at least this is just speaking from my experience, it's as simple as asking permission, as going, can we go deeper here? Can I, this might make you a little uncomfortable, but can we do an exercise right now? Yeah. And for me doing that, that's one of the ways I like to start my lives, where when we do our sales or our lunch and learns, is some of this might make you feel uncomfortable. When I do my 30-minute things, some of this might make you feel uncomfortable. You might feel a little like panicked and worried, and but just bear with me through it. Just come, this is what we're here for. And I sort of get their permission to test push those limits, and doing that, sometimes just doing that makes them go, okay, I'm more willing to be open because I know what's coming. At least for me, that's worked. I don't know if that's too far. Is that too far? Is that too out of the coaching realm? Is that like, you know what I mean? I'm going to push you. Like, this will make you uncomfortable. This process will be difficult at times.
It's a tool you've shared with them. You've given them a chance to go, no, I don't want to do this. No way. But they are going with, you know, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here to do something. And if I get a little uncomfortable, what does that really mean? Okay, let's go. Let's see what that means. And so it gives them a space to push that envelope towards that discomfort, so that they're seeing what they're capable of. Like Jen was speaking earlier, that capability of her now knowing she is capable of more and wanting to do more. Until that envelope gets pushed, the client doesn't know. They can't push their own envelope. That's why they're coming to us.
Yeah.
I think we're coming towards the end of our hour, though.
I was getting lost in it. It was fun.
So as far as to how to make that instant connection, it's on the coach at the very least, the coach's responsibility is to dive deeper and be the one who to get out of the surface level questions and then head into the depths, as far as the client is willing to go.
I can tell you though, having some surface level is important in your coaching as well, because it allows you to set up, Sue mentioned our Go Learn a few moments ago. It allows us to set up the framework. This is where, in that sense, we do take the lead. We have to have some sort of a framework to our session, as especially ICF wants us to create that client contract for that session. What are we going to talk about today? How are you going to know you're achieving it by the end of our session? What do you think will be there? So that is surface, but there are surface bits that are important, but being able to dive in and really ask those questions. I mean, it is the ability to hear and see and feel and have that mindfulness persona in who you are as the coach to really adapt with that client. Jen mentioned about that body language if she could see, we were all eye connected with her, even though we're on this, flat screen, we're all connected with her in what she was saying, the words that she was using. Full engagement really shows that you're interested in what that client is saying. Anthony, you brought up Oprah. Oprah is interested in everyone she is interviewing. She physically, I'm starting to get emotional. I don't know why. She physically
Oprah
is interested in what the other person wants to share and who they are. She really wants to get under and connect with their soul.
We've all been subliminal messaged that the moment we hear Oprah, it's like Pavlovian. We're like,
Well, for me, I have Drake and Josh, that show, but yes.
As you were sharing, Lisa, I was thinking we have this structure of, what do you want to work on today? How do we know when we've achieved that? What can we do in a session to know that we've accomplished that, what you want to work on? I almost want to add a third question, which is how would accomplishing what we work on today make you feel? And just remembering to tap back into that emotional relevance, that why, and how important that why is for goals moving forward. There's other ways to get there, and I think a lot of in the exploration that we do as coaches, it comes out. But it's just like a very good reminder for me to remember to go back. Somehow, at some point, you got to get that. Why are we doing what we're doing in there, and allow our clients to remember.
I think we got to trust ourselves too. I mean, as long as we've got that framework, we understand that piece. What a coach is, what a coach isn't, and stay in our lane. I can tell you something that when I was in person, I had some brand new clients and they were sitting in the waiting room, and I go out there and I scoot their butt over with my hip and sit next to them. Who does that? I never did that before. And yet I knew to do that because for some reason, sorry, dogs. I knew for some reason that fun needed to be infused. The instinct told me, dogs, sorry. That instinct took over because the fun interaction was required for them to feel that connection and trust in the process.
I also, for me to say, hey, we're going to do something. This is going to make you uncomfortable. But essentially, this is what you came here for, right? But for me to do that and for me to go, okay, will you run down this path with me? There's definitely a degree of confidence I have to have that my making them uncomfortable and pushing them out of their comfort zone is going to be beneficial at the end of it. This isn't for naught. So if I did that and there wasn't a good outcome, it would be a whole other story, right? Like,
And you said you've got to be strong. You do. You have to have done this work yourself to know and trust the process. If you've never done any of this work, how you're going to feel intimidated by it. You have
Yes.
to be able to do the work yourself as well.
well, and
I
that's
just
the selling yourself first. You have to know that what you're doing helps. So you have to sell it here and go, "Yeah, this works. I can do this." And once you believe that, it becomes so much easier to get out there and be like, okay, let's do it.
I just remembered a live that we did a long time ago on taboo coaching or something like that. Taboo, weird, offbeat coaching, and I remembered cuddle coaching.
Yes.
So, coaches out there, that's another thing you can do. You can cuddle with your clients, and as long as they agree to it, that'll provide a really
Oh
quick
my gosh.
connection to
A
them.
whole different kind of coaching.
What kind of connection we're talking about?
I'm lost. What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We did a so one of the weird coaching niches I found was people who are like paid to cuddle with a client, and it's only cuddling, and you just lay in bed or on the couch and cuddle with them and talk to them.
It's also because sometimes they would hire like cuddle coaches for people who have intimacy issues, for people whose husbands are out like overseas, and they like it's an emotional detachment, and it's actually better for the relationship that they have somebody there cuddling and laying with them at night. They have cuddle coaches who it just there's all kinds of reasons that this happens, but it's typically not just like what the kind of coaching we do. It's typically
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's not coaching. It's
But-
not coaching. It should get a different term, but yes.
yeah.
I can imagine a weird situation where an ICF coach is like, the setting of the coaching session happens while we're cuddling. To
There's so
sort
much
of,
liability there. I don't even want to touch.
I mean, you can have a video camera just like shooting the whole thing. But that's like physical touch. Oprah does it too. She'll put the arm on the shoulder. She'll put the arm
Yes.
on the
So
forearm.
important in
So that
creating-
makes that sort of helps, the connection form, whether how weird it is or not.
What I think it does with Oprah, it's more friendly, right? They're more
A friendly
intimate
cuddle.
friends versus
cuddling. Yes.
coaching, right?
Yeah.
'Cause we're not touching our clients. We're not.
Yeah, there's
yeah.
a level of notoriety there too. It's Oprah we're talking about here, as opposed to
That being said, though, I mean, we
as a
can
coach.
shake our hands with our clients. I hug our clients. I'm
Sure.
not. I'm somebody you can tell an
I can.
extrovert. This is a big extrovert trait, and I've just accepted I'm an extrovert. So you like is we put hands like we will like touch people. That's something we do. So like I mean I know I'll touch somebody on the shoulder. I greet people through physical touch, and I mess with people through physical touch. If you're my friend, we're sitting next to each other. I'm gonna be messing with you. I'm gonna be joshing with you. I'm gonna be elbowing you. I'm gonna be
Don't
doing all
ever
kinds
touch
with my
me.
brother. Like that's physical touch is at least for me something that's very important. So it's something I definitely utilize in my wheelhouse for connection for sure.
I feel like we're getting weird now, but we're at the end.
Yes.
Getting
I'll see
weird.
you
It's
live.
different for us.
What do you mean getting? I think we're normally.
This is what we do.
Alright.
That's it. Be sure to
Yeah.
check our other lives. We are not doing it next Tuesday. We will not be here next Tuesday. You can join us. When the heck are we doing this next?
Tuesday
The
the
27th.
The 27th of September. We will be back with CLC Live with another topic. In the meantime, share, like, subscribe, comment. Take our classes 3 days. You can connect with us as facilitators and staff and other students. And
It's
you'll
one
become
of the masterful and
Learning.
quick connecting. Take our 3-day classes.
Yep.
That's it.
And that's
Fuel
it.
Connection.
All right. See you guys in a couple weeks.